Hey guys, this is Yoda. Blizzard recently posted their trinket tuning for the new season. A lot of things have been nerfed from last season. Tome was nerfed and Pacemaker is nerfed, so a lot of classes that were considering using that, especially tanks, are probably not going to consider that anymore. I think Celia's secret technique is like very slightly less crit on average than Pacemaker, and it also gives your ally like more, even if you could just pick crit, and you can pick any stat with that one. So Celia's secret technique is going to be much better than Pacemaker now, so you probably just want to play that instead. Tome, the armor increase is not useful. I think if this read like 1000%, then it would still not be useful. I don't know why they bothered with this. The crit and damage getting reduced means that Tome will likely not see much play next season. House of Cards getting nerfed, I have Kazan getting nerfed, and Moxie Jug and Mr. Pick Me Up getting nerfed means that you very likely won't be using Season 2 trinkets for long in Season 3. Kind of expected that. A lot of Season 3 trinkets did get buffed or nerfed. So the cheat death trinket damage was increased, which is kind of nice. It was representing like 3 to 4%. Now it's going to be like, 4 to 5%. I think this trinket is not very good if you already have a cheat death in your class. So like DH, Blood DK, Warrior probably don't like it. But for other classes, especially in high keys, any type of cheat death is like usually considered pretty good for high keys. I could potentially see playing it on Paladin, Brewmaster, or Bear, but I would not recommend it on the other three. And obviously you will, even with this buff, you will be eating a massive damage loss by playing this. Doesn't have main stat on it, and you're missing out on some of the excellent trinkets that are available in the tank pool right now. That said, cheat death is really good, so I think for world rank 1 keys or just prog in general, you're still learning, this is a pretty good trinket to work with. Unfortunately, it does drop from the last boss in the raid, so if you want an actual good one that does a lot of damage, or, not horrible damage, you'll probably have to get the one from Mythic. But, a normal one does still serve the same purpose. It has cheat death, so if that's all you want, that's all you want. That's fine. Sacred damage increased, so this was an extremely popular trinket in Season 1. The damage component of it was not really that relevant. It was usually like 1%, so now it's going to be like 1.2% maybe. The relevant part was usually the main stat. This trinket was over simming. I don't see it being the front runner, at least in keys, for tank trinkets, but it is like a decent haste stat stick, does like average main stat. Maybe it's slightly lower than average main stat, so it's like decent, but I wouldn't consider it a front runner. Ritual Forge was a front runner. This trinket was pretty overtuned in my opinion, and it had crit on it, which was coveted by quite a few tanks. With the primary stat reduction, you probably won't play this, especially considering what they did to some other trinkets. This trinket, I think damage doesn't really matter, so this is not really much of a buff, similar to the Arakar Sackbird, although I don't know it that well because it's not used by tanks. Brand damage increased by 20% is crazy. When I originally read this trinket, I think I misunderstood it, like how it works, since the tooltip is not very clear. Basically, this is 10% or more of your damage on single target usually, and like maybe 5 to 10, somewhere between 5 and 10 on AoE. And increasing that by 20% is kind of crazy. This is going to be the best trinket in the game by far for tanks, as long as you can keep reasonable stacks. Highly recommend playing this. Useless Swarm Gland. This trinket has always been garbage, and this does not change anything about that. Cursed Stone Idol damage increase. So this increased the damage portion, which was a very, very low amount of the contribution from this trinket. Like your damage, it's similar to Sacred basically. This was doing like less than 1% of your damage, so maybe it'll be like a 0.2% better. But yeah, this trinket is still going to be really good if you like crit every 130, for instance, for Frost DK or something. This line of text doesn't really change anything about that. Meta Chopper still sucks. Do not equip this. Arcana Core, I think, is randomly really good for a few classes, which is kind of crazy. Damage increase means it'll probably see play in raid, but I don't think it'll be good in keys. Not sure. Zap Cap, I don't think is very good. Probably won't see play. Harvester's Edict damage is relevant. Will not see play. Warp Claw, maybe, but probably not. Meryldar's Hole, definitely not. This trinket, I don't even know what it does, but it's probably not very good. Just a bunch of cantrips actually randomly getting buffed, but I assume they still have like the tank tax, so for tanks they're not going to be that good. For DPS, maybe I could see them seeing play in raid. This projector, I could actually see being played. For instance, in Ecodome, there's a boss that drops 2 like javelins that you have to kill, and they're like similar to totems. This could perform that for you, maybe. With a 30% buff, it does look actually somewhat decent, I think. This is the raid trinket from the last boss. I think it's probably going to be good in raid, but not good in keys. It's really only good if a target is living like literally forever, and that doesn't happen in keys. There's the Cosmic Cut, another cantrip. Might be good, might not be. Nether Prism, this damage increase doesn't matter also. Nether Prism damage increase does matter and stacks to 18, so a lot of classes that were potentially playing 2-minute or 230 were thinking about using Nether Prism, but if it stacks to 15, then you would like waste stacks sometimes if you were playing on 230. Stacking up to 18 means you very rarely lose stacks. Damage increase is also kind of nice. Damage wasn't the main component of this trinket, but you know, it was already a good trinket. I think also that this trinket got overbuffed. It was probably under simming for dungeons, because in raid, most you'll sim 5 minutes. In a dungeon, the first cooldown that you use in that 5 minute sim basically has no trinket, right? Because Nether Prism starts with no stacks. But in a dungeon, that like cooldown usage that you didn't get any stacks for is kind of like, how do you say it? It's diluted by the fact that the dungeon lasts like 30 minutes. So losing one trinket usage on a cooldown is not as important. Whereas in a 5 minute sim, it is very important. So I think this was under simming. It's probably going to be extremely good in dungeons. I'm even considering playing it on some tanks, namely Prot Paladin, mainly because like you can kind of just use it to fit your cooldown, and Prot Paladin's cooldown is like 1 minute 15, which does not really fit any other trinket. You can use Eras's, but it just got nerfed. In fact, actually, recently in Arcara, I was playing double on use with Eras's and Nether Prism. You just use one every other wings, and you don't get full value out of the Eras's, but whatever. Nowadays, I think the best damage combination is probably going to have Brand, but now the damage is increased by 20%. You'll probably play Brand and Nether Prism for damage, and if you want to survive, you'll just drop Nether Prism for All-Devouring Nucleus. Probably is what's going to end up happening. Pacemaker, probably out of the picture. Tome, out of the picture. And I think Solia's Secret Technique, if you want to play stat stick, Solia's Secret Technique is going to be the best stat stick. They also did not yet fix the Codex. Kind of still waiting for them to do that, though at this point I'm kind of doubting that they're actually going to. So for tanks, it's looking like if you want a stat stick, Solia's Secret Technique is where you go. If you don't have Cheat Death, this is a good pickup. Brand is going to be really good if you are able to keep stacks, so pretty much like most of the keys you can think of a way to keep stacks. And this trinket is going to be really good for damage if your class has cooldowns. I believe it's good for Sand Lane Blood Decay, and also for Prot Paladin for damage wise. Potentially Warrior, maybe like you could use it every Avatar Demolish or something, or every Avatar is Mountain Thane, something like that. But we will see. Anyway, that is it for the trinket video. Thank you all for watching. Peace out.